Thanks for coming today. Today we are going to build and ship an application. To do that, we will try to think about some important points to have in mind to be able to do it in a quick time, like 45 minutes, for example. I'm Hugo Pérard, so I'm from France, in Rouen, so I'm French, so sorry for my accent. I'm lead front developer at Bear Studio, that is a French IT company that also makes some open source projects. And yet, like I said, Johan just before, it's my first talk, so please be kind. I start with a small disclaimer. This talk needs some basic knowledge about React and React libraries because I will talk and use some during the talks, and I don't have time to detail everything. But if you don't have knowledge, don't worry, it will be okay. So what are we going to do today? Our application will be a simple voting application for today's talk, where we want the user to be able to consult the list of talks, to like talks, and to see which talk has he liked. So the talks and votes parts in reality is only the visible part of the iceberg, because in reality our three features require more stuff to be a production application. Like for example, an authentication part, because we want the user to be able to consult which talks he had liked. So we need that, and this includes a user's administration and also an account management. And finally, we also need an application setup because we want our application to work. So we had to build it to make all the stuff required working together. So like the authentication, but also we'll need some UI library and other stuff that we will see later. So we can represent our application development timeline in this way. We see that we have four main parts that include the application setup, the authentication flow development, and finally our talks features. So the user talks listing and votes, but also the administration of talks, because I want to be able to, as an admin, to create and update the talks that I want the user to vote. So I have a bad news. We only have 40 minutes, yes, because I already speak a bit. But I have also good news. It's that we will do it anyway. So we have to do it in 40 minutes. So we need to save time. So the question is how to save time. I will detail two main parts to do that. The first one will be to don't redo existing things, and the second one will be to try to identify core value of our application, to be able to identify temporary alternatives, to delay some stuff, to be able to save some time. So come back with our timeline. We'll try to identify parts of our application that maybe already exist. First, the application setups is maybe it's something that exists, and yes, all production applications have a working setup, so we can identify it like existing. Second part, with the authentication, we all have applications that all need to be authenticated, so maybe we can identify it as an existing. Finally, we have our original parts of the application with talks that we want to be customizable, to be original, so we don't identify it as existing. So what's the solution? We know parts of our application that already exist, but how to don't redo it? Our solution will be to use a project starter. In a short definition, a project starter is a pre-configured setup that provides the essential structure, tools, and best practices needed to begin a new project quickly. That we can show in this definition, it's a project starter will provide an essential structure that will match with our need to have a project setup, an application setup, but also some tools and best practices that will allow us to save some time in the parts that we will develop. To illustrate a bit more what is a project starter, I will show you some example. Maybe there is some that you already saw. There is very basic ones like React ones that only provide the React required configuration. It's the same for Next and Vite. But there is also advanced starter like Vite templates that you can find in the awesome Vite GitHub repositories. We have the Create Tissue app that is a more advanced starter with FullStack, that is FullStack with the Next for the front part and the gRPC for the backend server. And then we have Start UI that we will use today. Maybe you see it just before. So today I choose Start UI because for two main reasons. The first one is that something that I know because it's our homemade starter at Bear Studio, so that will help us to save sometimes. But also because it checks all the cases that we want. It provides a complete setup, but also an authentication, the authentication flow and the account and the user's management. And many more things that we will see just later. Yes, I will just drink. So we have our solutions to save more than half of our development using Start UI. Now we will have to identify our application core value and try to find temporary alternatives to save more time. In the first, for the talks and vote parts, that's our main feature of our application. So we will do it, but we will try to think as an MVP, so the mineable variable product. That means we will focus on the functional. The app will not be perfect, but it will be functional. So for this part, it will be as an MVP. Then, for the administration tools, we will find a temporary alternative for now. For the first version, we will not develop the interfaces to make query actions of on the tools, but we'll find an alternative that will be to make this action directly in the database. That will make us save a lot of time of development. So, in conclusion, how to save time? We have our solution. From all these development steps, we only make a small part of the tools work, but our app stays 100% functional at the end. So let's do it. I already prepared some basic requirements to save some time, because 40 minutes is a short time. So I already create my GitHub repository. You can see that it's generated from Start UI web repository. I also create my project, my database with Neo. It's very simple if you want to have a free database. And I also prepared SMTP for the authentication part using Revo. So that's the stuff that I've prepared. But now we can just try to develop. So first part, I will just check the README to have the installation information to run my project. We go to the installation part. The first one, we see that we have to copy .of example. We just do it. So now we have all our environment variables configured. We can see here that we have, by default, Docker local database that is very useful for development to start development quickly. For now, I will not use it because I will save time to just configure one database that will be the production database directly. So I have prepared a local variable. Okay, for now I just need this, those variable environment variables. Sorry. I use so that I already use my production database that will allow to, like I said, to not do the action to prepare two database. So dependency installation is already done to save some time again because it's a short time. That part is for initialization of the Docker database, so we don't have to do it. We just need to run this command, the db init that will, like the name says, to initiate the database, so that will push our models, but also generate some default data to be able to run the application. Okay, I just need another. I will just check that the right database. I have some issues with the connection here with the database, but we'll have some solution if it doesn't work. Okay, I prepared the backup. Sorry for that. Okay, that works. So we see here that the database is not synchronized with our Prisma schema, that we will see just later, and that there is some data that are created. So yes, the connection is poor, but we don't need this for now. Now we can just run the project to see where we begin with StartUI. Okay. So this is the login page of StartUI. I arrived here because I launched the app for the first time, so I'm not connected. We see here that we have a dev mode that allows to have a quick connect to access to the log views. That is very useful when you want to dev and you don't have to find some credentials for access to the data. Here we are the onboarding because I create a new account. And then I arrive in the base application of StartUI. I arrive on the home page. That's with some marketing stuff because it's an open source project. We also have that will not work because I don't think that the data was created, but not doesn't matter. We have whole an existing scope of books that will help us to have an example and good practices examples that we can reuse for our development. So we can see that we have a page listing, but also the account management by default. I don't have access because I'm just a user, but there is also the manager part with all books management and users management too. So today we are going to, what we want is to replace this on page by the list of the talks of ForKit Kuala Lumpur and to be able to vote for each talks. So the first part to do that is to define the database schemas. To do that, we can use Prisma. We can see the Prisma folder that contains the schema Prisma, where we can find all existing models for authentication, but also for books. And we will use an author, so books authors, as an example for our talks. So I just want a new model talk with basic stuff like ID, created that, and updated that. And then I want to add custom fields. Like I want to talk to just have a name and have a speaker. That would be a string too. And then we want another model that will be the table of the relation table to manage likes on the talks. So for this model, we don't have ID fields because it will be a relation between user and talks. So using user ID and talk ID. So we need to make a relation. We can find example of relation in other models. For example, in the session 1, we have a relation with the user, so we can just take it and paste it. And then we do the same for the talk. So to relation to the talk model with the field talk ID and reference to the ID. I just need to add the map. Sorry, here. And then we need to have ID to define it as a combination of a user ID and talk ID. Now we see that still 2 errors, but it's just the other parts of the relation that we can just add with quick fix here. And then I just fix the syntax. So here we are. We have our models, talks and talk likes. We just need to add the ZOD schemas that will match our model. To do that, we just check the architecture. Here we have a SRC folder in which we have the features folders, where we can find, for example, the book, and where we will add our new feature folder, talk. Oh, I already have it. Yeah. In this one, I will add the schemas for file. And if I take book as an example here, we can see that it's just to define the ZOD schema, but also to declare the TypeScript type that will be useful later. So we can take it as an example here, import ZOD, and just rename talk. Here we are that there is some more advanced condition in the ZOD schema, but we will keep simple for now for our schema. So we just define the name as a string and speaker as a string. Okay, we are good with that. We just need to, if the connection is with me, to update our database, running the pnpm-db push. Okay, I will try several times. Now, what we want to do is to declare backend router with our API to get the list of talks. We will do that on the server folder, where we can see an existing routers folder. And we can check as an example the book one. For the book one, for example, we have the get-all that will return all the books, but also other like get by ID to get books details and some mutation, for example, to create, update, or delete the books. We can copy paste this file to get the structure of the file and just clean what we don't need. So we just want for now the get-all with the tag talks. The permission, we don't manage specific permission for now, so we just give the permission to all users that can access to the talks. So that's the API for that. For the books, it's an infinite. It's for an infinite query. So if we have some param to pass to manage the cursor and the limit of the listing, for now we just don't put any input and just manage a list of talks. Okay, I have to import it. Okay. No. Okay. We have to do some clean here. We can clean all the stuff in. And here what we want is just to get whole database talks. To do that, we can just get the items and using the context that provides the DB, we can check in the talk table and find many. So here we see that this return a list of something that match our Prisma model of talks, and then we can just return a hit as an item just for matching the output that we define here. Okay, I just have to fix the Z-talk import. Maybe I don't. Yes, I don't. Rename it here. Okay. So we define our new router. We just have to add it in the return router to use it on the front side. So talk as a talk router that we get here. Okay, so now we have all that we want to be able to get the talks that we have on our database in the front end. So let's create our new page talks. And we'll continue to get books as an example. So just checking page books. I will just get all and we'll see what it contains just after. So page talks here. That contains translation that we don't want to manage for now, and we don't need to manage for now. Then we get the query of the books. For us, it will not be the books, it will be the talks. We don't use a query, but an infinite query, sorry, but a query. And then here, from ORPC library, we don't want to get book, but we want to get the talks. We trigger the getAll handler that we defined just before, and we don't get the infinite option, but the query option. And then we don't need all of this. So that allows us to get all of our talk. This it's utils to manage the UI states depending on some condition. Here on the talk conditions, we want to have a specific render if the query is pending, is error. If it's empty, we just need to change the condition here. We want to manage a specific render if the list is empty. And then the default case if all is okay. We don't want to have a specific bar. And then we arrive in the render. Here we have to define what we want to display to the user if the query is loading. So we can just display a spinner. If there is any error with the call to the database, we want to display a page error. It's a basic component, a generic basic component. If it's empty, we just hardcode in English, no talk. And then if we are in the default case, that means that we have our items, we will define our render. So here will be the content. So we map on all the items, and for now we just define the text with a key ID and just displays the name of the talk. We need to clean some stuff about infinite query that we didn't choose. Okay. So now we have our page talk, but we don't link it with our routing. We can just easily do it. So we want to replace the page home that already exists. So we can see in the routes folder that the routing of the application, we have the app, and then the index, that's where where defines the page home, and just replace using page talk. Okay, so let's check what we have. I hope the connection will be with me. Okay, so the query is pending, so we have our pending state render, that is the spinner. And that is the page error. So we'll continue anyway. We should see no talk because we don't create any talk for now. So we will create it anyway. To do that, we almost saw on the beginning that there is existing seeds to create default users and default books. So we can use it to create how it works. If we see an example of seed for the books, it's a lot of stuff just to create some fake data. So in the seed file, in the seed folder, sorry, I will create a new talk file, and I prepared that before because it's not the most important part, and we have to do quickly. So create talk, and just fix the import. So here I just define all the list of all today's talks, and just a promise that is waiting to create all the talk in the database. So we need just to link this with the command seed that we will run. So create talks, and I will try to don't do that. Maybe it will help. So pnpm db seed. So this command allows to run this script. Okay, yeah, I just need to fix this import. Trying to connect to the database. Okay, the talks has been created. Maybe we will be more lucky and we will see. Maybe not. Okay, no. They don't want. We'll continue. We should see all talks that we just created. So just the name, because we just defined the name in the render here. The next step is to create the router, so the backend router that allow to toggle the like, to be able to allow users to like a talk. So we are going back to, I'll do some clean here. We are going back in the router, and just we need here to create a new handler to make this mutation. I already prepared it before, but I will explain it. So we create a protected procedure because we don't want authenticated user to create to toggle like to every user that have access to the app. It's a post method with the definition of the API. It's not very important. In input, we are waiting for an ID that matches the ID of the talk, and we are waiting for nothing in the output for now. Here we just define the ID of a talk like, that is the combination between the ID, that is the ID of the current user, that allows to know who is the user that toggle the like, and then the ID that it provides in input. To know if we have to add a like or remove a like, we just need to check in the talk like table that is already talk like that exists with the ID that we define here. If there is one, we have to delete to remove the like, and if there is not, we have to create a new like to define the talk as liked. And that's this. So we just need to integrate that in the interface. To do that, I will define a new component that I will name talk item. This talk item will take as a props the talk that we can define with the type here, and it will return. I have prepared a small render to have something here. that's using existing component in Start.UI. So it don't take too many time to do this, but we have to make it very, very quick. So here we just define a card that will display the name of the talk, but also the name of the speaker, and then provide a button to allow to toggle the like. But we see that there is missing stuff. We need to define how toggle like. So using FullStack query and ORPC, we can define how mutation here to make it the toggle like, getting mutation option here. Now we see that there is a missing field here, the is favorite, because in the list of talks that the backend provide, we don't have the information of if the user like it or not. So we need to add this information just here in the find menu to know to be able to add this information in each talk. We'll have to check if for a user a talk include a talk like. That means there is an existing talk like that is related to the talk. But I need to check it only for the talk like that matching the current user. To do that, I can just add a where condition here to check that the user ID is the ID of the current user. We can see here that now the item contains a list of talk like. So we can just know here the favorite, the like state of the talk. If sorry, I have to map. We just need to map in each item. I provide all the item content, but I will add his favorite field that will be defined if I have any talk likes. That means the item is liked by the current user. There's still something missing. It's because my talk, I have to add this information in the ZOT schema to be sure that it provides to the front end. So I just have to add the field as a ZOT boolean here. And now there is no error. And if we check if the network wants us to check, okay. I will just try something just later, but in reality you should have finished for the demonstration, so I will just add a hole that we do and just push to be able to deploy it after. So I add all, I just commit as like that, and I git push. Okay. Oh yeah, because I don't have fix. There is some configuration in the base in Start.UI that prevents some errors on push code. It should be better now if commit it and try to push again. we'll start with the deployment step. So using Vercel, I can very quickly deploy a GitHub repository. He proposed me to deploy this Git repository. That's the one that we are doing. We just have to set some environment variables. So I have prepared some. It's almost the same that I have in local. It's a database URL that we have used. The base URL of the application, some configuration for the authentication, the SMTP for the authentication flow with the sent email. And that's it. I can launch that if, okay, everything's good. So we have to wait for the deployment. So I just do a little conclusion about that. So we see that the usage of a project starter give us a powerful base for our applications that allow us to have a working setup and some good practices that we had reused, but also some not wanted feature, but that's also that are always cool, like dark mode that I don't show, but it's native in Start UI. For the wanted feature, we have to, it's important to identify what is the real value of the app and try to save many times using temporary alternative. I think for the administration part, it takes 1 hour more, but just with an temporary alternative, we just save all this time using database. Finally, we have to do concessions to ship a functional app in a short time, so we have to think about MVP. The app that we do is not the perfect, but it's what we wanted. It completes the 3 points that we defined at the beginning, and it's perfect. Now it's okay. You can just scan the QR code on the left and try the application we built. So if you scan the QR code, you can just sign up using your email. You should have an email in your webmail, and then you can just consult the list of the talks and put likes on some. So thanks for listening, and if you have some questions.
Thank you, Hugo. Do we have any questions? Okay. Thank you, Hugo. I see no questions. Thank you very much.